Good morning. I'm Bill Zortman, and welcome to our It's Your Business. It's the Report Card Show, first half 2021, and quite a first half it was. We put our report card participants through our airwaves to get to you so that you can kind of have an even better feel as to what's going on. Show number is 3405. 100 or so of those have been report card shows. We have to get the Keynoter on with us this morning, Tony Bachman team Keller Williams. Tony, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Before we get to the president of the Home Builders Association, Tom Jarding, and the Real Estate Association, Mr. Rick Trapp, with his shoes, it's a trip or a trap. I'm not sure which it's going to be.
There's some fantastic shoes. I love them.
Yeah, I don't know where he found them, but
we're going to have to take a picture of them before we leave, so we'll put them on our social media.
Yes, amazing. I know your team's been busy, lots of closings, lots of those buying or selling, but what would you share about the last dozen days as we started the second half of 2021?
Yeah, I think that one thing that we did notice, and we mentioned last week a little bit, is the 4th of July weekend seemed to help kind of put a little bit of a pause. We noticed, we were still answering phone calls and we were still showing a few homes, but it wasn't quite at the same pace. I think that, that summer, traditionally July has been a month that typically we see a little bit of a slowdown in activity. And, and I realize all traditional, events when we talk about trends are kind of out the window. But we did see a little bit of a slowdown in reference. I think people decided to take a little time, spend some time with their families, enjoy themselves, and enjoy the 4th of July. So, but we're still busy. I had made offers over the weekend, showed some houses over the weekend. And I know that was going on with the rest of our team also.
I know you have a new system in place, and basically we talk about how much people can lose if they wait. Can they actually make money if they wait as well?
Well, that
makes you think about it.
That's a twist. Yeah, I think in that perspective, we're talking from a perspective of a seller. So if you're a seller, because we're seeing appreciation rates right now, on average appreciation rates, that's easy for me to say on a Monday morning. I better have another cup of coffee. But the appreciation rate is typically about 4%, meaning if just an easy equation is if you have a $100,000 property, that property should be worth within the next year $104,000. And I realize we don't hardly have any properties that are $100,000 in our marketplace. So now if you take that and say you've got a $300,000 property, or $400,000 property, that property is now worth within 12 months approximately $312,000. But here's the thing: right now we're seeing appreciation rates anywhere from 7 to 8%. So now if you have that $3,000 property, that $300,000 property is now worth $324,000 if you wait a year. So, and I think that there's this. It's like when you're investing in the stock market, or you're looking at the highs and the lows. We're very bullish, and I think the nation. They're looking at South Dakota as very bullish on investing in South Dakota. That's why we're seeing so many people moving in. So I think my message would be to sellers is that if you want to make a move, it's a great time to do. You're going to be able to cash in some of your equity, and then depending on where you want to move to your next location. A lot of people are making lateral moves in reference to instead of, having this, 3,000-foot home, they're going to go to something that's a little less than 2,000, but has amenities. It's brand new. It's got HOAs, those sorts of things. Or, and we've talked about this many times with COVID, with the fact that, people realize that they do want the bigger homes. They do need space for their families. They want the backyard, for their pets and that sort of thing, and maybe someplace for a home office. So making a move is actually just a smart move right now. And I think the overall thing that would say that, the cost of waiting is interest rates. So we don't know when this will happen. And I'm not saying like Chicken Little, the sky is falling. I think interest rates are going to continue to be where they're at for a while. It's just that when they make a change, they typically make a change quickly.
He's Tony Bachman team Keller Williams. He is the Keynoter. Right beside him is the president of the Real Estate Association this year, Rick Trapp. Does he speak with the right tongue or the forked tongue this morning? What would you say?
Well, I think he's correct on a lot of the stuff that he says, because that's why he's a keynoter. So,
good.
But, overall, the sellers are here to sell their properties to make their most money for them. And I believe waiting or selling today, it's a great time to sell, to make the market.
So if you're a buyer and the interest rates are where they're at, how do you figure what makes the most sense for you today, tomorrow, and beyond?
Well, as a buyer, I would say jump in. The market is here. It's still going to keep going up. It's leveling off a little bit, but it's not leveling off to the market where we think it is. The price is still up there. It's just higher than what it was. It's just like lumber, going up, coming down. Tom will tell us about that. So, but overall, buyers are going to be smart to make a smart move, to move forward and get their inspections, get their appraisals, and the properties are going to come out good for both sides, sellers and buyers.
We are 6 months into the year, plus 12 days.
Right.
Are you still getting a lot of interest from outside of our immediate area?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of. I received 2 phone calls over the weekend from people who are outside our area, and they basically just said we've all of a sudden changed our focus and we're going to start looking at South Dakota marketplace because they're starting to hear so much about our economy and what's happening and the new companies coming in. And, we've always been kind of a favorable market over this last 12 months where people have said, South Dakota looks like a great place to live, your standard of living, your cost of living, and the cost of living here is substantially less, and people just didn't realize because South Dakota wasn't on the map. Well, good or bad, COVID kind of put, South Dakota on the map, with Kristi Noem's, having these conversations and people being able to see her and her talk about what's happening in our state. Well, all of a sudden people said, maybe we want to move to South Dakota. We should take a look at South Dakota. And now all of a sudden we're an individual state as opposed to, they didn't know where South and North Dakota were. Now the nation does. So, yes, a lot of focus from people outside that are looking at bringing some of their investments into their portfolios. The other part is that we don't see appreciation slowing down for a while. And depending on which journal you read and what's happening, I think that we're probably in for this type of a market in reference to high demand, low inventory. And yes, it'll level out a little bit where it's not quite so bad. But in the same token, I think we're probably looking at 36 months at a bare minimum because you have all these companies that are being built and people moving in to employ them.
Rick Trapp, when did you first get your license?
95.
Okay, so you're 26 years into it.
Yes.
If they had taught you in 95 or they taught me in 2002 that you're going to have people that are going to buy houses Zooming, they'll never see the house, what would you have said?
I don't want it. I don't think it's right because what are you buying? And
even today,
biggest investment. I mean, what are you going to get if you don't look at it? And what happens if you spend X amount over it and then you come in there and then you say you have to do inspections or they do their inspections and you got 30, 40,000 in inspection repairs. Now you just spent 40 over. Now you got $80,000 and now you want to get that made up in over the years that you want to sell. You got to live there for a while.
I know you've had some Zooming, good experiences, but not everybody can get the full picture. The wife going into the kitchen, putting the smile on the face, and those personal things that you see can make a difference.
Well, and to Rick's point in reference to, I've done a number of those, and I think that's a lot of pressure. I mean, I think what happens is now I'm, kind of on the hook of like I'm trying to relate to them what I'm seeing and how I think this may affect the cost or when it comes to repairs, that sort of thing. So I do, have I put on an addendum that, the buyers are understanding that they're buying this sight unseen and I'm, held harmless in reference to, but in the same token, I'm also making sure that I'm advising them as best I can, making sure that we're doing all of our inspections. And I have people that they physically can't come to, where we're at. So I just had one last week where we did the inspection via, FaceTime. And, it all worked out. It was fine. And I think we're just in this new marketplace. It's a whole new world, out there right now. And we're just trying to deal with all these new things that are happening. And we're going to continue to see that. I had an investor over the weekend that called and was asking about some duplex that we had. And in the meantime, this investor had said, we're looking at like multiple states. And he goes, we're buying many of these sight unseen. He says, yes, we're wanting to do our due diligence, but we want to make sure that we're working with somebody who can help advise us. And I said, I get it. I said, and I told him at that time, I said, I've done a number of these. I said, but it's one of those that I also feel a lot of pressure because I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for you and what makes sense, as an investment. And so we're seeing that. It is what it is, and we just have to work with it. It's the new brave world of real estate and people moving.
And I would guess, just guessing, is that to what we have in Sioux Falls, the prices we have here don't match some of the higher prices you get in the Twin Cities, you get in a Chicago, you get in a Denver, some of the other things. And I think Tony has kind of worked up a little sheet this morning maybe to even hit that point.
So comparisons, highlights of South Dakota versus like New York City. When it comes to overall, cost of living and that sort of thing, it's 53% less to live here than in New York City. Median home price is 72% cheaper in Sioux Falls than New York City. And I know that's an extreme example because you're like, of course it's New York, So then I also looked at, when we talk about the overall comparison of Portland, Oregon, median home price here is 55% less than in Portland, Oregon. And we're seeing a big wave, a big push of people coming from the West Coast, that sort of thing, for those same reasons. I mean, they want to have, some place that they can live where they feel safe and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying Portland isn't safe. It's just that the news hasn't been very favorable, in that area. And then lastly, I'll use Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado, kind of a western Midwest, city. Median home price is 55% cheaper in Sioux Falls than in Denver. And I have received many calls. I just the person I was just talking about in reference to doing the home inspection via FaceTime. They're from Denver, Colorado, and they've done the numbers. He's a stats guy. He just said, I ran the numbers, and he says, I feel like I can live, cheaper in South Dakota, and we have 2 small children, and we wanted to be someplace so they moved to, the Brandon area because they like the idea with the school district.
All right, Tony, this will be your last question. Rick's going to stay around. Tom Jarding's already on the phone, and we're going to pick them up. What are you seeing the next 6 months?
Well, we talked a little bit about, I think we're going to see a little bit more leveling off of prices because I think we've had such this radical appreciation rate that, a comparison would be as if you had something that was sold 3 months ago for $325,000, then those houses sold for $20,000 and $30,000 over. So now all of a sudden those neighbors that live next to that person, if they want to sell, they're like, well, they sold theirs for $350,000. So why don't we price ours at, $349,000 or whatever? They're still going to get their $349,000. They may get a little over $349,000. It's just that we're not going to see the fact that they're going to be getting $20,000 and $30,000 over that $349,000 just because of that's the leveling factor. And I think buyers are becoming more educated. I mean, in reference to, we as realtors are becoming more educated.
Well, you've learned. Now they're learning as well.
Yeah. So this is, I think, these messages, this what we're having here, this discourse of talking about this is what's. And so when I talk to a first-time home buyer, they're understanding they've got to be aggressive. It's not us having to give them a crash course.
All right, Tony Bachman, you get a great grade for being the keynoter. We got to keep
Bill.
Trapp after school. Tom Jarding joins next.
See ya.